The war in Afghanistan may be officially over, but recent headlines suggest the impact of America's longest war will last. Army veteran and author of the new book, Surviving Son, Scott DeLuzio, lost a brother in that fight. And he joins us now to share his story and a message of hope. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Elisa.
I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your brother. How has that tragedy of your brother's battlefield death impacted you?
Yeah, so, I mean, my brother and I were raised in a very patriotic family. We both joined the military after 9/11, answering the country's call to service, and we both were deployed at the same time to Afghanistan in 2010, where my brother Stephen was tragically killed. But I used that as fuel to go out and help other veterans, and it led me to writing this book, Surviving Son, and also starting my podcast, the Drive On Podcast, which both of them ultimately have the same goal of helping out veterans and raise awareness for the issues that we face.
Such an important goal. And what is being done to help U.S. troops dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder after serving in Afghanistan?
Yeah, there's so many things that are being done, and I started the Drive On podcast because I personally knew several veterans who took their own lives after returning from deployment overseas and dealing with the PTSD and stresses of combat and things like that. And the numbers of veterans who are struggling with mental health issues are absolutely staggering. So I talked to organizations and nonprofits who are going out and really doing the work to try to help veterans and raise awareness for the issues that we have. And so there's so many organizations out there that are doing great things for veterans, and we talk about that a lot on the podcast.
And that's such important work. And your book, Surviving Son, reveals some raw emotions. What do you hope that readers get out of it?
Yeah, I hope that the veterans and the militaries, the service members who read the book Surviving Son, and I really do encourage them to go out and get a copy of this book, but I hope that they learn from my mistakes. There are healthy ways to deal with PTSD and the stresses of combat, and I feel that if they read this book, they might have a better chance. But I also hope that the civilians go out and take a look at this book as well and learn about the sacrifices that we make in the military community and how it affects our families, and families like mine, the Gold Star families where we lost my brother, and the communities that we live in, and how it all affects us.
Obviously, reading your book is one of these ways. What are some other ways that Americans what can we do to help our veterans?
Yeah, I think really just bridging that gap between the military and the civilian world, where a lot of military veterans are coming out of the service and they feel like there's a big disconnect there. And so learning about what veterans deal with, and my book, Surviving Son, talks about my story, my brother's story, and our family's story, and it will help you really learn and understand what's going on in our lives. But also the podcast, I talked to so many veterans about the things that they struggled with and what they were going through, and it's just a really great way to learn about what's going on in these veterans' lives, and really getting people out there and understanding and hopefully bridging that gap between the civilian and military population.
How can people get your book?
So my book right now is available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle format. Just look for Surviving Son on Amazon or go to survivingsonbook.com. And if you want to check out the podcast, look for Drive On Podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts, or go to driveonpodcast.com.
Scott, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your service, and we express our condolences on the loss of your brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa.